I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch You Want, and thanks for logging on. Once again, we survived the week that was, and this is the week in watches. I'm here with Josh Thanos.
Hey, Tim. Good to see you.
Who is not just a seller of watches, but what else do you do, Josh?
I wear them. Oh, wait, I buy them also.
That's right.
That's right.
Totally forgot that.
Yes.
And what are you wearing today?
Today I have the a Rolex ceramic Green Hulk Submariner, which right now, if you haven't noticed, is a watch that is going crazy in popularity. So, like Tim said, I buy watches, and if you have one of these, I want to buy it. So please give me a call. You can throw that number up on the screen sometime today?
Oh yeah, we're going to throw that up all over the screen all night long. So Josh, now you've seen what he's wearing. Let's take a look at what I'm wearing for the night. Okay. So as you know, both Josh and I are about to depart to Geneva for a little trip to F. Vacheron. We're going to say hi, wine and dine, take a little tour around the city, and for that, I'm going to need a travel watch. So I'm wearing my Reverso Duo, night and day, AM, PM on the dial. Interesting, a little bit of a rarity, loomed hands on both sides, hand-painted floral numerals on the front, little white gold watch with a black dial. That zings me.
That's an awesome watch.
Yeah, I'm happy about that one. And that's not even my best Reverso.
No, it's definitely not your best Reverso.
So, you guys, if you want to sell your watch, Josh is the man.
Yeah.
And if you want to buy your watch, well, you're just like me. So, tonight we're going to play this or that with a little interlude involving travel watches. So, Josh, tonight we're playing this or that with two travel watches from Geneva.
Yeah.
Okay, first, Vacheron Constantin Overseas World Time 7700.
Oh.
It's a watch that came out last year with the third generation overseas. It's a world timer. It's a wonderfully elaborate world timer with 36 time zones, 43.5 millimeters in stainless steel, in-house caliber, finally display case back, Geneva seal, $37,000 US in steel, comes with a strap in rubber, a strap in leather, and of course a full stainless steel bracelet. Is that all? Not even close, but I've got to move on to its rival, which is Patek Philippe's Aquanaut 5164A. Since 2011, arguably the Aquanaut, and you need look no farther than the Advanced Research Series 5650 for evidence of that. The flagship Aquanaut with the new Advanced Research Series pivotless changer system for the travel time function, cuts the number of parts by 2/3, and of course increases the price by about a factor of 15. So we're going to stick with the $34,000 standard edition tonight. Okay, so Josh, which one of these do you want? 43.5 steel versus about 41 steel. Not much of a price difference in the real world.
Well, yeah, though $34,000 for that Aquanaut travel time is what you're paying for that watch if you want to buy it, right? So,
yes. 37 for the Vacheron. There's room for negotiation.
Possibly. Though I will say that it seems like Vacheron has figured out distribution because their watches right now are actually in high demand, which is a good thing. Thank you, Vacheron. We like that. So let's start with this or that. I'll pick the Aquanaut, and the reason being, the Vacheron's beautiful. It's an amazing watch. Whenever I talk about bracelets on on sport model watches, I always go to Vacheron because they are absolutely beautiful, amazing watches. And that dial that they put with that world time is amazing, right?
Yes.
You can see it on the screen now. Open case back, gold rotor. They did amazing upgrades to this watch.
It's actually a 3-level dial featuring superimposed sapphires. So you actually see the different layers moving independently. And they've gone all out with several time zones that are 15-minute offsets from standard GMT. So this is a true attempt at a worldwide world timer, even for those quirky quarters. And Josh, of course, both of these are water resistant, with the Patek being 120, the Vacheron 150. You're never going to surpass either of those. So does it come down to fit, or does it come down to aesthetics?
So, well, I'll tell you this. When I first got into watches, I actually ran into an Aquanaut pretty early on. It was a 5167. I didn't know what all the hoopla was about. I didn't understand the watch. Now that my tastes have evolved and I really understand the brand and the watch, I love it. It fits amazing. Right, and that's one thing about the Vacherons. The overseas are a little too large for my wrist.
Okay.
It's a bit bulky. They are heavily engineered, absolutely amazingly designed, but on the wrist, they tend to be a little thick, a little bulky, and a little aggressive for my taste, right? So when you have the Aquanaut travel time from, let's put it right now, today is what? It's September 22nd, 2017. Patek is the king of watches right now, as it stands. So when you have a watch that's understated on a rubber strap that is, I think it's Patek's only dual time currently, right? In their lineup right now? I don't think the 5030, is it the 5134 is no longer being made, I believe.
Are they still making the 5990?
Sorry, the 5990. Okay, so this is one of only 2 travel times, and dual times that
probably
Patek makes.
The 5024 Pilot's watch is still around. We like that one, guys. We've got one. Buy it.
It's a good watch.
So, yes, continue.
One of a few. The fit is absolutely amazing, and then when you consider that it is being made by essentially the current king of watches, it's a home run, and nothing really is going to go up against it.
I'll throw this in there, guys. I've reviewed the new Overseas family on my Golfberg channel, and I absolutely love the watch. My wrist is skinny, but I can still wear it comfortably, and with 3 straps, leather, rubber, and of course the full bracelet, which you can change with their new quick-release lugs, totally tool-free. You can find a fit that you'll like. Personally, 12.5 millimeters thick, it didn't feel too bulky for me. It's always about the flow of the bracelet around the wrist. It's always about the thickness of the watch. I found it fits well, and the Aquanaut was just a little bit bigger than its bare measurement because of the stiffness of its strap. So in a real world, though the Overseas is bigger, it's a dead heat fit-wise. Okay, Josh, let's move out into the playpen and do a little news commentary.
Sure.
Now, we were talking about Bremont before the show, right?
Yeah, we like Bremont.
We do like Bremont. And if you're doing a car watch co-branding, you really want to be Bremont and Jaguar.
Yeah.
Because that is a combination of the man, the brand, and the machine all coming together. The English brothers love British stuff, and they love machines. And Jaguar doesn't get much more mechanical and British than that. This is a great counterpart to their aviation offerings, and it is a genuinely elegant watch, beautifully inspired by the machinery that precedes it. So that's when everything is in sync. That's your synchro mesh option, so to speak.
Right.
Okay, Panerai Ferrari, the concept didn't deliver, but the product was actually not bad. What are your thoughts on that? What could have been done differently?
They should have put Panerai on the dial, and that would have probably helped a bit. And, you know, the problem is Panerai is a dive watch company, and when was the last time you saw a Ferrari on the water?
Yeah, again, unless you're trying to ditch something for tax purposes, it just doesn't happen. And then there's Movado Ferrari, where the concept delivers, but the product is a little bit short of what you expect if you are tifosi. So anyway, Roger Dubuis now shifts gear, folks, with an auto branding, not just part of the car like they had with Pirelli earlier this year, but the whole thing. For the 2017 year end, Roger Dubuis shifts gear to join forces with Lamborghini. Yes, Automobili Lamborghini, the other Italian supercar, and the longtime rival to Ferrari and Maserati. Automobili Lamborghini announced its partnership with Roger Dubuis on Thursday. Now, the brand has followed the 2017 Excalibur Carbon Spider, which came out earlier this year at SIHH, and the Pirelli partnership, which again was co-branding with a piece of the car, just not the whole thing, with Lamborghini. And the deal is set to run for a minimum of 5 years. Now the Pirelli thing makes sense. Yeah. Now the carbon exhibitionist, techno, almost Richard Mille-esque style begins to jive with their actual branding efforts. So since Roger Dubuis morphed from its early years, and you know, we've sold some of these classically styled early Dubuis into sort of a Geneva-inflected Richard Mille, you know, I think the brand has been ripe for a partnership along these lines with Lamborghini, and I think that now with the new Excalibur Aventador S that was announced in conjunction with this partnership, you're going to see 8 pieces in sheet molding compound and 88 pieces in conventional carbon fiber with the Duotor Caliber 103 SQ that powers the watch.
Is that in-house?
It is. Not only is it in-house, but it's doubly in-house with 2 escapements and 2 balances.
Wow.
Carbon fiber imagery borrowed from Lamborghini engine bays. You cognoscenti of the brand will recognize that immediately. Right. And of course, it's a credit to Roger Dubuis, CEO Jean-Marc Pontruet's vision for Roger Dubuis as an ultra haute de gamme and avant-garde house. Both measures in equal amounts, style and substance. And at basically $194,500 and $216,000 respectively. These 2 versions are so expensive that they leave no doubt. This is what a statement watch looks like, guys. You start your pricing at 194 grand, and you're basically pricing out most of the market. So you're throwing down the gauntlet. Guys, you're either with us or against us. For a company that made the phrase "just for friends" famous, Josh.
Yeah.
Is this right for the brand?
You know what? It makes sense. And I'll throw back to a statement that we made in a previous show about the Breitling Bentley and how that needed an update, right? Because the watch does not really represent the car. I think that Roger Dubuis, with its somewhat limited market, right? It's a niche brand.
5,000 pieces max per year.
Right, exactly. So it's very limited if you want to get your hands on it. They are partnering with a brand in Lamborghini that makes sense, right? The watches, when you look at it, when you see a Lamborghini and you see the new Roger Dubuis, or even any of those Excaliburs, they feel like they're fast, they're aggressive, they look rich too. You know, it's somewhat of a flashy watch, but it's very extremely sporty as well. So, and the craftsmanship behind it. The Roger Dubuis are fantastic watchmakers. They always have been.
Every one of them Geneva hallmark.
I mean, what else can you ask for, right? So it matches the idea of the car, and if you can afford the car, you probably can afford the watch, which is important too.
That's true. Yeah. Again, and believe me, there's nothing wrong, guys, with dressing up to pair your clothes to your watch with the watch leading the way. That's right. I think it's completely next level when you pick your car to pair with your watch. And that's what Roger Dubuis fans can finally do. And again, this is a no-holds-barred, go big or go home move. This is what Roger Dubuis needs to be, and I'm happy to say that they're finally there. Yeah. And of course, it's important to note that Lamborghini is strident. It's polarizing. It's expensive, and it's sybaritic in kind of the best way. That's modern Dubuis precisely. I'd like to see more styling and complication crossovers inspired by Lamborghini. Also, this deal feels more like a complete thought than the Pirelli thing, which frankly, it was like, okay, well, what's the next deal going to be? Like, you know, Connolly leather? Are we going to be taking like Bridge of Weir, Wilton carpets? Right. This is right, and the two work well together. Okay, so the last thing I want to mention is we actually have Roger Dubuis now. I'm announcing right here, we are now Roger Dubuis distributors. You can call up Claudio, you can call up Josh. Govberg has that option on the table. So if you like what you see and you want to throw down, Aventador S on the wrist and on the driveway, starting right here. Yeah. Okay, so Josh.
Call after you get your Lamborghini.
And Lambo's X. And believe me, I like this brand. At the same time, the 2009 to 2017 links between Blancpain and Lamborghini never resonated as really sincere. And this is where our news commentary kind of comes in. Because even after the Lambo-driven L Evolution line was reworked, and they did come quite far after the early models to appear more tangibly linked to the cars, it just never felt like Blancpain. This is what Blancpain is all about. That's right. Gorgeous, exclusive, rich, and frankly tied to a wonderful historical backstory. And what about the lovely Le Mans line? I mean, almost completely ignored over the years. And I just want to say that this is not the heart and soul of Blancpain. And we've got a wonderful image of a watch that's beautifully made, but a little bit chaotic in concept and execution. I love this brand. I want it to thrive beyond the 50 fathoms. I truly identify with its standards of craftsmanship and low production. The exclusivity, the prestige, the joy of the whole Blancpain brand, I really feel like this is an opportunity to get back in touch with it. If Blancpain were an auto mark, a brand, it would be something like the French Facel, or 1960s British Jensen. And I think I've got an image of a Facel HK500 ready to throw up. Yep, there it is.
That's Blancpain right there.
That was the post-war Duesenberg in every sense. That's what Blancpain should be.
Well, vintage is in right now, and they can absolutely capitalize on this because people are obsessed with vintage redos right now. So I think Blancpain could actually take a suggestion from there.
And by the way, that car is a contemporary of the original Blancpain 50 Fathoms, especially the Mil-Spec 1 and Mil-Spec 2. And Blancpain's got a tribute to the Mil-Spec that I enjoy right now, a 40mm 50 Fathoms. That's a great option for those of you who are slight of wrist. Don't undersell the 45, though. Believe me, guys, it fits better than you might imagine.
That's right.
So the thing is, I think the removal of the corporate mandate to go full Lambo is going to help Blancpain. I think a refocusing on modern elegance as opposed to the neoclassical luxury of its luxury stablemate Breguet. Neoclassicism is Breguet. I think modern understated elegance and strong links to 20th century history, that's Blancpain to a T. I think it's a great start to the new era at Blancpain that they're refocusing on their core identity, and I think an even better way to do that would be to revive and revitalize the otherwise moribund but lovely Le Mans line. Those are watches that deserve some care. TLC, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, Josh.
Yep.
We're back in your wheelhouse now.
What's that?
IWC Big Pilot's Watch Safari, 100 pieces, 46 millimeters, titanium. Is this the right move?
Well, if we look at the history of titanium Big Pilots, you know that they have historically been in super high demand. So I'd say, yes, this is awesome. Unfortunately, the watch is a little too big for me to wear.
Yeah, me too. But in titanium, if it fits your wrist and you don't like the weight, now you've got an option. Now, Thai Big Pilots have been surprisingly scarce. Now, this one's going to come with 5002. If you remember the reference 5002, I've got a great article about it on our Golfberg blog, 15 years of the Big Pilot this year, guys. And the 5002 is the purist's choice. This watch is going to recall the dial details of that one, and it's going to come on a evocative buffalo strap with availability in late 2017. Of course, we have IWC on hand, both new and pre-owned.
That's right.
Delivery will be taken in May of 2018, guys. Good things take time. That said, let's recount some of the titanium Big Pilots. Now, Josh, you've sold some of these.
Yes, I have. I think I've sold every one of these. So we'll start with the,
take me through.
The Sincere Limited Edition, which, by the way, if you have one of those, please call me. I want to buy it from you. Call me, please.
We want these.
I need that watch, actually. So, you know, it has orange markers, titanium case. It's made for the Sincere boutiques in Asia, in Singapore, I believe, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
And how many were there?
50 pieces.
50 pieces, not enough, but it's good. Please don't make any more. The next one would be the Bartarelli, and if I'm trying to remember the color combinations on that one.
Yeah, I mean, the standout with this was that it was a titanium Big Pilot, and it had an interesting sub-seconds dial at 9 with the conventional 7-day power reserve. This was for the Italian standout Bartarelli, and of course, titanium Big Pilot, rare combination, but I think the all-time peak of Big Pilot-ness in titanium was probably the Cellini limited edition.
Oh, yes.
This is the complication with the rarity, with the titanium, all in one 46 millimeter package, and yeah, I'm going to say that's another 50-piece edition. So Josh, let me ask, other than the 2016 Big Pilot Heritage 48 and 55 pair, which were both too big for me, why is it so rare to see a titanium Big Pilot's watch? It seems like a match made in high heaven, or the stratosphere at least.
I think if they made that watch a regular production piece with maybe like a different dial color variation or something like that, right? So like titanium in a dark green or something like that, I think they would do very, very well with it. Because the weight of the watch, not only is it really, really big, it's super heavy. So you have to be essentially a giant in order to have that as your everyday wear. I do have some clients. I have a customer who's a Big Pilot collector. He's not a huge guy, but he just likes having a big watch, which is understandable. But that being a core watch for the brand, it should be a more mainstream piece. And I wonder if they could make that in 43 millimeters. I often think to myself that all the time.
You know, a lot of folks go to the Pilot's Watch Chronograph specifically for that reason.
That's right.
It's a more wearable kind of smaller twin of the Big Pilot. It's got the same case lines, it's got the same shape.
Yeah, but it's not quite as handsome as the Big Pilot. I want a Big Pilot with the big onion crown and the presence on a watch that I could wear every day.
You want a Big Pilot that's a medium flyer.
Medium Pilot.
There you go, the medium pilot.
Can I get a medium pilot, please? Please,
all right. So we got some questions coming in. Okay, this is an interesting question from Lee Cohen. Coming to us from Palm Beach.
Hey, Lee.
Not far from our old haunts. Okay, first let me give a shout out to some of our folks who are here, because Noah, JBO Surf, Daniel Arison, Mohammed Hassan, and of course Lee are in the chat box tonight. Sequan, ably manning our chat box as ever. Okay, so Lee Cohen's asking, love Josh's green Rolex. That's the Hulk, guys, on Josh's wrist tonight. We've got a wonderful wrist shot of that. But Lee wants to know, what are your thoughts on expected retained value of new Datejust 41 versus traditional subs or GMTs? Josh, I think you got to take the Datejust 41 on its own terms against the Datejust 2 rather than comparing it to a steel Rolex sport watch, because that's a tough comparison.
Yeah, they're not really in the same realm. So Lee, as we've spoken before, because we have, the steel sport watches are going to be in the class of their own. If you want to get into something that's a little dressier, I guess would be a little bit more versatile.
Yes.
A Datejust 2 or Datejust 41 would be a good way to go. They do hold value, right? Better than some of the other dress watches in their line, right, their competition. But in regards to how a Rolex sport watch will do,
yes.
I mean, there's no comparison. I mean, again, we talked about the green sub, which I'm wearing today. Right now, this is a watch that we were selling. We were selling these watches for $7,000 just, earlier this year. Now, like, it's hard for me to buy them at that price. So as a dealer. So, I mean, you don't really see that kind of flux in any dress watch whatsoever. It's only sport watches you see that with,
Yeah, and I think it's also important just to say that it's the only instances where you're going to see a Rolex sport watch lose anything up front, right off the bat, it's going to be your precious metal and your mixed metal.
That's true.
Those are traditionally the weaker plays, but I will say that all else equal, any Datejust versus any GMT or Submariner or
Deep Sea.
Maybe even Sea Dweller in the current moment.
Yeah.
It's going to be an unfair fight. Remember, there's the Rolex sports watch, and then there's everything else.
But relatively, they do hold good value.
JBO Surf's asking, Tim and Josh, have you seen the new limited edition Nomos Zurich watches for Switzerland Singapore store? Okay, so Watches of Switzerland Singapore store has a new set of limited edition Zurich Weltsites, nice watches. If you know the geographic complication, I have an upcoming special on those in World Timers. And that's basically what the Zurich Weltsite is. I like them. I like the warmth. I like the granular, muted appearance of the dials. They're understated in classical Nomos fashion. I feel like this is a good extension of the Nomos brand. It's certainly a credit to both the vendor and the brand itself. But in my opinion, the Zurich Weltsite Nachtblau is still the king of the ring. That is one hell of a watch, and it's hard to improve on perfection. I would say going forward, retailer special editions tend to be here and there, here today, gone tomorrow. Unless you're a super fan of the retailer or an executive, in general, they don't hold much enduring interest. Unless they're just hardcore watches, like those IWC Big Pilots we talked about.
That's right.
If they had no retailer associations, they'd be worth a lot. They'd be desirable. We'd still be looking to buy them.
Right.
But if you want the ultimate Zurich Weltsite, you still want the Nachtblau. That's the one to own. That's the one I will someday buy for myself. Okay, moving on through the chat box too. We've got a couple of questions about Sinn. Of course, Sinn Uhren of Germany, an interesting company. They make hardcore tool watches, and they do have some horological interest from the watchmaking standpoint because aside from their somewhat unusual choices of in-house caliber applications, which weren't really that sporting right out of the gate, when they receive movements from their customer caliber providers, they put them through the mill, they do all their own adjustment in-house, you're getting good value, and they pioneered the direct sales model in the watch industry, and they did that decades before others. But if you want the best value in Sinn, it's still a pre-owned buy. With widely available customer calibers that can be serviced anywhere, service isn't really a concern, and with an off-the-beaten-path brand name, neither really is counterfeiting. So Sinn, best bought pre-owned, but rock-solid sports watches, guys.
Yeah.
Is that your experience generally when Sinn comes through?
Yeah, I mean, they're not watches that trade for a ton of cash, but they're always solid. They're going to be watches that trade between private sellers, and everyone who owns a Sinn tends to really love it. Nobody just, I have a Sinn. No, it's I got this watch. This is why I bought it. This is this is why I'm deciding to sell it. But
it's a cult brand,
without a doubt. And you know what? O.J. Watley from What You Want, he's a huge Sinn fan. So he got me into Sinn a bit. I like Sinn.
That's right. If you're a sinner, those watches are A-OK.
That's right.
Friends of the devil, sign right up. So here's the thing. Okay, good times, bad times, evil times, Sinn times. We're getting a lot of interesting questions. Could the AP15202 take off like the Patek Philippe 5711? I believe that that's a watch that never touched down. Could it take off like the 5711? Steel? Absolutely.
Well, okay. Well, I mean, so what they're talking about is right now when you're seeing insane sale prices, like $40,000 for a steel current production watch. It's bizarre, right, that we're seeing this. So I don't know if it'll ever get to that, but it is probably their strongest sport model, especially at that price point, because it has a similar price point. Collectors who have the 5711 a lot of times will have that 15202 in blue.
So Yes, a strong value play. In general, we're seeing 39mm Audemars Piguet and steel pick up big time in the Royal Oak family. Whether you're talking, you know, something like a 15300 or you're talking first-gen Chrono, that came out 20 years ago, guys. That's a birthday boy this year.
Oh, yeah.
And believe me, it's never looked better on the pre-owned market. But your 15202 best play is always going to be a blue dial stainless steel.
That's right. But the white dial's stunning, by the way. We just had one in. Amazing watch, and it's still super strong. It's crazy what's going on with these sport watches right now.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting because that's the opposite of what happened in the watch industry last month, and we're going to get to that in a moment. Okay. Finally, Josh, I'm asking you to look into your crystal ball for a long-time viewer, JBO Surf. Youssef, I see you. I'm going to get your question, and I'm not going to forget that. But JBO Surf is asking, what will happen to the value of Patek's Pilot's watches? The 5524 and the 5522. 5524 white gold travel time came out in 15. Okay, 5522 is a New York Grand Exhibition Special Edition of 600.
Right.
Time only, no date.
That's right.
Blue granular dial. Where do you see these watches going? Which is the stronger play for the long term?
So yeah, purists are kind of poo-pooed those watches, but the market has spoken. Those watches are super hot. I think it has to do with distribution. If those watches suddenly become extremely easy to get, which
I don't see that happening. They could have made 3 times as many and had a wait list.
Well, they say there's 600 of the 5522As,
yes.
right? Any way to really confirm that? I doubt it, but. Let's take their word for it. There's 600 of them. There's certainly more than 600
people. This isn't Ferrari. They're not going to make another 30 chassis.
No, and they're not numbering these watches. So I think that it's an interesting step forward for Patek. It changes things. 42mm, but it seems larger than that too. The 5522A. So I'd say at first it was a little bit of there was a cringe.
I think there was a cringe mostly because of distribution. The first complaint I saw with the 5524 in white gold, people said, oh, Patek should make a Pilot's watch. By the time we got to the 5522, people were like, why isn't it available in Singapore, in Hong Kong, in Abu Dhabi, in London? There was like an outrage that it was only 600 for the US market and no one else gets to buy.
Right, and we get tons of inquiries for these watches, and customers are like, listen, what can I do in order to get my hands on this watch? It's crazy. So we like it. Okay,
yeah, I mean, honestly, look, if you want to get in line, I don't even know where you would queue up. Like, that's a watch that's sold, guys. So what does the market think? Swell, send more. That's what the market thinks. Youssef, I want to quickly answer your question, and then we're going to move on to our talking points, because we've got a big show tonight, guys. Thanks for joining us, by the way. Watch Yoda, Robert Dixon from Scotland, Budget Watch Guy. I see Eric Nielsen, longtime viewer. Okay, so Youssef is asking, how would you compare Jaeger-LeCoutlre to Patek Philippe in terms of movement, crafting, history, and value? Is it true that Patek Philippe watches are more expensive just because of the name? There's definitely a premium in there for Patek, but the name is associated with peerless history, standards of finish and quality that are beyond reproach, huge investments in research and development, and the price of keeping one of the true jewels of the industry independent. How much do you wish Porsche weren't under the yoke of VW? That's why Patek Philippe charges a premium, to stay that way, out from under the yoke of Swatch Group. So the bottom line is that I think the JLC has movement engineering capability that is second to none. They're on par with Patek. In terms of finishing, you're going to see that JLC has many price points, because with JLC what you pay for is complication, whereas Patek Philippe has pretty much a floor. You're never going to see a $10,000 new Patek Philippe. You're never going to see an $8,000 new Patek Philippe. You can buy a very nice sub $10,000 steel Jaeger-LeCoultre, and there's an honest trade-off between the amount of energy invested in making the watch and the amount that they charge you for it. Do you want to spend Patek money? Because if you do, Jaeger-LeCoultre will sell you a watch finished like a Patek. Not necessarily in the same style, but to the same standard. They have their own style. And if you've ever looked at the Duomet, the Master Grand Tradition family, if you've ever looked at something like the great Reverso Platinum No. 2 Tourbillon, I may have one of those lying around, not for sale. The bottom line is JLC can do finish, but they do it in their own way. And that's the difference between Patek and JLC. Patek has one standard of finish, JLC has many. But as engineers, head to head. Okay.
So in summary, Tim thinks JLC is better than Patek.
I don't think that. I don't think that.
He knows that.
I think that I root for the home team out of love.
Okay.
So there's that. Okay. So Josh, speaking of beauty and finishing standards, a bit off the beaten path, but also of Genève and Fleurier. This is another new watch. We go from the beast of the IWC Big Pilot to the beauty of the Chopard LUC XPS. Now available in platinum.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so 40 millimeters by 7.2. It's not a small traditional dress watch, but it is an ultra thin. 7.2 millimeters is going to undercut something like a 15202 that we were talking about before, the Royal Oak Extra Thin, by a full millimeter plus. Blue off-center sunburst dial with the sunburst emanating from the Chopard marquee rather than the cannon pinion at center. This is what Chopard does best in the dress watch realm. Micro rotor manufacture caliber 96.01. 65-hour power reserve traces its lineage back to Parmigiani, which is an incredible pedigree. Geneva hallmark and a certified chronometer with a micro rotor is beautiful. I've often said in the past that Lange is probably the best value in pre-owned hand-finished watch, but I think the Chopard LUC collection certainly upends the boat. $25,400 US new, but there's an $8,200 steel version. Josh, what is the market like for pre-owned Chopard LUC, and where do you see the brand going moving forward with watches like this in the catalog?
Well, I have to agree with you in regards to a value play when you buy a Chopard LUC pre-owned, because the brand is essentially known as somewhat of a jewelry brand, right? Just like kind of like how Cartier is, right?
And that is
Harry Winston as well.
They're legitimately a jewelry brand.
Yeah. So exactly, Harry Winston, Cartier, Chopard, they're known as
Tiffany a little bit too.
Right, exactly, a jewelry brand. So when they do high horology, they tend to get, disrespected, and that's kind of what happens in the market. So the result of that is a lower market on watches that are probably selling sometimes at or below their cost of manufacture. So when you get a watch like this, that it looks like to anyone else on the street, it's just a regular dress watch, right? But you know better. If you're wearing that watch, you're having an extremely highly finished micro rotor movement and as well as the dial, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be
the dial is exquisite. It's beautiful both sides. There are not many simple three-hand with the date watches that deserve to be looped on both sides. This is one of them. So here's the thing, guys. If you want something that's finished like a Laurent Ferrier, that's finished like a Vacheron, that's finished not like a Lange, but to the same standard, Chopard LUC is the best-kept secret in fine finish. It's amazing that a brand that is fairly large could be a best-kept secret, but this is a little ingle nook within their catalog that you need to consider. Right. And I would even say that if you want, some people say, you know what, I don't want someone else's DNA on my watch, I want the protection of a warranty, I want the new watch experience. And for that person, you know what, you're not going to be disappointed with what you get if you lay out for this. I think the bigger challenge is that there's a very attractive white dial, $8,200 steel version with a tungsten micro rotor from the same brand, from the same watchmakers, and that's going to be its own biggest competition.
Yeah, and I'll say this, as a buyer, as a trader, I will pay more, nominally more, but I will pay more for an LUC than just a traditional Chopard branded watch. So just keep that in mind. There is going to be a little bit more value retention. It's not going to be humongous, but if you do want to buy one new, the watches are unbelievable. I like the complications that the LUC makes.
By the way, you can get any complication you want from Chopard in the LUC collection, but this, the direct descendant of the original caliber 196 in 1996, the first manufacturer Chopard, the first LUC, this is the direct descendant to that watch, and arguably the purist's choice. If you're already into Chopard, you already know, and if you're not, do yourself a favor. You need to do some Google image searches, and you will shed a tear. Chopard, I like what you're doing. I'm looking forward to the future. All right.
Got me thinking about Chopard, man. I got to start. I might have to
Believe me, you got to consider them. Always a surprise at Basel every year.
That's right.
Now, what should not be a surprise, though, is that in the last month, the dragon roars. Guys, the mainland China market, and even Hong Kong a little bit, is coming back. Now, we've seen 4 consecutive months of Swiss watch export growth, and this is a great thing because we're coming off one of the worst sales periods for the Swiss watch industry since the Depression and the Quartz era. But here's the good news. A rebound, if you take pocket watches, clocks and watch components out of the equation, Swiss watch exports grew 3.8% last month.
That's good.
Josh, you've long emphasized that Chinese culture persists regardless of regulation. Therefore, gifting, watch tourism, and infatuation with Swiss imports, especially precious metal, is going to outrun just about anything Beijing can impose in the long run.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I'd say that one thing about their market is, and their developing market, is that they have a concerted effort to grow their middle class, right?
Yes.
And it's an all boats rise kind of thing. So there's going to be more people who can afford these things, and a part of the culture is going to be, exactly like you said, they're going to be appreciating fine things and luxury goods. It's ingrained in the culture. So as their middle class grows, their upper class grows, people can afford these things. So it's only going to get bigger in China, I believe.
And here's the thing. Mainland China and Hong Kong together are just over 19% of the world's entire export market for Swiss luxury watches. It's a big deal. With both of them up, it's having a significant impact on the value of Swiss watch exports. And here's the thing, guys. Unique Chinese tastes are having a decisive impact because they particularly love precious metal watches and high-end watches. And if you look at the two graphs I've got up on the screen, guys, you can see I've circled that precious metals led all other categories in value gained. And watches over 3,000 Swiss francs value were the only category that gained in exports last month. That's the world turned upside down. In the US and Europe, it's all about the steel sports watch. In China, again, people are like, oh, the Chinese, they like gold. You know what? Chinese tastes are exactly like America in the 1980s. This is like, you can send over Guns N' Roses, Al Bundy, the Merkur car brand, send over your best Ronald Reagan impersonator, and you would feel like you're back in the US 1980s. That's kind of what the Chinese watch market is like today. It's a young, exuberant, conspicuous consumption environment where no one wants a white gold watch and everyone wants a gold watch. Yellow gold, rose gold. That's important. Just like it's more important to be seen getting driven in a car than it is to be seen driving an expensive car. Like, if you're driving your own Mercedes C-Class, that's... You would much rather be seen getting driven in a Buick because that's prestigious. And it's the same thing with Swiss watch exports. Because of unique tastes, the size of the market, and cultural persistence, China is back. And I guess the last question, Josh, is... Culture aside, is the Chinese recovery sustainable? Between infatuation with Bitcoin and Bitcoin knockouts, or knockoffs, I should say, like initial coin offerings, which were just made illegal, mass participation in stock speculation fueled by borrowing, real estate speculation. Where does this end? Is there a soft landing possible? Can it continue to grow?
I would hope so. I see that building your entire economy on manufacturing, especially the way that they did, it's probably not sustainable. So having different exports besides low-cost manufacturing is the way that they want to go. They're investing big time in Africa, which I think is good. So you see the Chinese government, which essentially is controlling their economy, is investing outside of China, which I think is really good for the country itself. They're going to be able to export their jobs, and I think that's the next thing. So high-skilled workers being exported to places like Africa and other places that need to be built up. I think that's really where all the wealth is going to come from in China.
I think it's very important what Josh notes about investing in Africa, because right now there's a lot of international trade and also currency agreements that China is putting in place to lay the groundwork for the future. Just recently, Russia allowed China to transact purchases of gas and oil products in Chinese yuan rather than US dollars. And if that becomes the reserve currency, if that becomes the denomination of oil globally, for instance, if Saudi Aramco would accept Chinese yuan, you think about the knockdown effects of that, the strength of Chinese currency that would result, that could sustain the strength of the demand for Swiss watch products. And I think in the long run, that could help China remain, even as it grows, even as it suffers growing pains, a very robust market for Swiss luxury goods.
I'd agree with you.
Okay, so guys, we've got a little bit of a bonus this or that for you tonight. This or That Competitive Clocks Edition, guys. That's right, we're taking it off the wrist and throwing it down tonight. Okay, so Competitive Clocks Edition, what have we got for you? Well, it is the MB&F Octopod, brand new, from our lovely friends at Max Busser and Friends. And of course, the old school choice, the longtime stalwart in the luxury clock category, Jaeger-LeCoutlre. Okay, I am going to recuse myself, like the Attorney General, from the decision because I'm a fanboy. I can make the case, but believe me, you already know what I've chosen. This is Josh's decision.
Sure.
He's the man now.
Right.
Okay, MB&F Octopod just came out. 35,000 Swiss francs, which in sort of a messy, loose translation is about 36,500 US dollars at the moment. It's the 7th clock from MB&F.
Okay.
A famous family, I should say, that includes all sorts of crazy shapes and characters, and you know, from the Starfleet machine to the cute little Sherman, there's something for everyone in there. Max Busser now owns rock star status. So be part of the man, the myth, Max, by buying the Octopod. You become part of the dream. 3 editions, 50 pieces each, silver, black, and blue legs. It's an Octopod, so you're getting lots of them. And with a polycarbonate head, a glass movement baseplate, and metal legs, it's an interesting sort of polyglot collection of unconventional horologic materials and components unconventionally assembled with a gorgeous hand-wind 8-day caliber from Lepay 1839. The friendly folks from High Horology who make clocks and have been longtime partners of Max Busser and Friends. They're the Friends guys. 8-day power reserve. Caliber floats on a glass base plate, so it's suspended in space inside this thing. And I think it's important to note, this thing looks like something that you would pick off of your leg after a vacation in the Hamptons. Those of you who live in the Hamptons, basically Tic-Tac Central, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's cute, it's fun, and anything you wind with a key is cool. So it can be folded or deployed into an open-legged stance, and each leg is independently poisable, plus you can rotate the head. Okay, Josh?
Yes.
The champion and defending Jaeger-LeCoutlre, 26,800 US dollars. Jaeger-LeCoutlre offering you, okay, MB&F has been doing the clock thing since the iPhone 6 was new. Okay, so that gives you a timeline. JLC has been making the Atmos since literally forever. Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. JLC can do new and cool because what do the Icopod, you remember these?
Oh, I like that.
The Apple Watch Series 3 have in common with the Atmos 568, which is the name of this watch, or this clock, guys. Yeah. Marc Newson. The Australian-born world citizen is the designer of 3 Atmos editions. This is the latest and the first one that is unlimited production. Guys, launched this year, the JLC Atmos 568 is so Newson-esque that it's tough to even give you a picture of it because it disappears. It's like great modernist architecture. When they say the building disappears, the clock disappears. It's the polar opposite of the Octopod in that Newson largely designed the Jaeger-LeCoutlre to disappear around its mechanism, while the MB&F Octopod is all about its outer shell and appendages. Which one of these do you pick for yourself? Okay, let's say price is not a factor. Which one is cooler?
Well, good news is I have no idea what these things trade for, so I truly can't talk about price points or retention of value. So
let's just say we're paying list. Total respect.
Okay. So, when you first talked to me about this earlier today, you said, hey, we're going to do this or that with 2 clocks. You threw me an Atmos and an MB&F, and I'm thinking to myself, well, as somebody who considers myself kind of a futurist, my next car is going to be a Tesla, my next watch is going to be Quartz Journe, right? So, cool cutting edge stuff, I'm thinking, well, it's got to be the Octopod, right? But when I saw the 568 and I saw how freaking cool that looks, and I know the history of it, and I like the brand itself, I think I'm going with the JLC.
Okay, now look, I'm underneath the table, I'm stomping on his foot with a metal cleat. Honestly, there's something transcendent about the ageless perpetual motion clock from JLC. Now you can see that clock, but you can't tell how it works. 1 degree of temperature change will operate the mechanism for 2 days. If you just leave it in your living room, it will never, ever need your attention.
Wow.
Yeah, you'll have to account for daylight savings time, but it just continues to run itself perpetually. It's as close to a perpetual motion machine as you will ever find, short of a Tesla rolling down the Continental Divide in regeneration mode. Yeah. So guys, JLC may be the old-timer in the category, but in this case, the old dog knows some new tricks.
So
guys,
cool.
I think there's only one question left, Josh, and
what's that, Tim?
that is, do you only sell watches?
No, Tim, I also buy them.
Contrived conclusion.
Please call me.
This is worse than Star Wars Episode 6. No, guys.
No, nothing's as bad as that.
No Ewoks.
Yeah.
Not here. Guys, thank you so much. I appreciate everyone who stayed up late, everyone who got up early, all you fine folks from far-flung locations, thank you so much. Guys, have a great weekend. I'm Tim, he's Josh, this is Watch One. They're the three amigos, and thanks for logging on.